Hey, what's up, guys? Today I'm going to tell you something wild about publishing. I'm going to tell you three myths that may keep you stuck. And I learned these through trial and error. If I had known that these were myths when I first got started writing 10, 15 years ago, I would be in a very different place like right now. But I didn't know. So here we are. You get the opportunity to learn that these are myths today and move the needle forward on your project as a result. And in the middle of giving you these three myths about publishing that could keep you stuck, I am also going to give you three reframing questions that you need to consider before you ever write your next nonfiction book proposal. Now, anyone can learn from these three reframing questions. So if you hear nothing else that I say in this entire video, listen for those. Every writer can learn from those if you plan to pitch your book and publish traditionally with a traditional publishing house. But I have a special offer today, especially for Christian speakers, leaders, and thinkers who have a nonfiction book idea. They want to move the needle forward on publication, but they're just missing some critical information, resources, and guidance. I have something special just for all of you. So listen for that opportunity as well. These reframing questions I'm going to give you in the middle of this presentation, I have used personally myself to land 9 book contracts, but I've also used them to help writers that we work with, that we coach in our network, to attract their dream agents, land publishing deals, and earn high advances, sometimes up into the 6 figures. I think the highest advance of any author that we've worked with these reframing questions is $110,000. So these questions work, and I can't wait to tell you what they are. First, I'd like to tell you a bit about myself. My name is Ruth Buchanan, and I am a writer. And I had a 13-year career as a classroom teacher. But in 2013, I knew that I wanted to pursue a more creative life. So I quit my day job as a teacher and I started writing. And I thought because I was a good writer that the transition, I knew it wouldn't be easy, but I thought it would be fairly quick and fairly straightforward, and it turned out to be none of those things. Between 2013 and 2017, when my first book finally did release, I was rejected by over 30 publishers for my debut novel. I was rejected by so many agents, I'd lost count. I have a file in Google, in my Google email that's just labeled rejections. And I'm afraid to actually look at the number where it is right now. So the writing came easily to me, but it turns out I had no idea how to navigate publishing. And I didn't know that that was the problem. Have you ever heard that phrase, I didn't know what I didn't know? That was really me. So I spent years just feeling like I was spinning my wheels and thinking, maybe this whole thing was a mistake. Maybe I should have never quit my day job. Maybe I'll never have a book come out. And I really did want to give up, but I knew that the creator had made me the way I am for a reason. So I started investing in learning more about not just the writing life, but the publishing industry. I spent so much money going to conferences and networking with people, and I invested years in my industry education and finally started seeing some of my work release. And it wasn't what I had dreamed, and it wasn't what I had imagined. And part of that was just my naivete. I didn't understand the industry, and I didn't understand what went from taking a book from concept to contract to publication. And that's some of what I'm going to share with you all today, because I don't want to see talented writers suffer the way that I did. So after my books started releasing, I just started sharing what I was learning in an informal way. And I realized, partly because of my background in education, that I really loved doing that. And I started helping people informally. And I was seeing writers that I was helping see a lot of success with especially their book proposals. So around 2019, I linked up with the Personal Growth and Development Network, Build a Better Us, to begin intentionally building resources for writers. So we built workshops and networks and coaching and peer-to-peer development so that writers could get what they need. And along the way, I continued to help people with their book proposal. I have personally coached over 300 plus writers, and that's everyone from Pre-published authors who this is the first project that they've ever worked on, through New York Times bestselling authors who had hit some kind of roadblock or needed a little bit of help along their journey. And so I have personally coached over 300 writers and counting, and we have seen our services help them accomplish their goals with our book proposal template. And with these three reframing questions we're going to talk about, we have seen writers go from concept to contract to publication, earning advances. And those advances have had a range, anywhere from on the low end, $2,500, $5,000, but on the high end, six figures. So we're going to share those reframing questions with you today. And we're also going to share a program and an opportunity that we have for writers who want to join the ranks of authors who go from concept to contract to publication. If you're going to navigate traditional publishing, especially for nonfiction books, there are three myths you're going to have to bust in your head first. And the first myth is just this: the myth that if your book concept is just strong enough, you're going to get a book deal eventually. Unfortunately, the reality is a little more complicated. In reality, the book's main idea is only one part of a large equation that's going to impact whether a writer is offered a book contract. So, in reality, in your book proposal, you need to communicate that your idea meets readers where they are right now. Books that tend to do well are ones that meet a cultural moment. So, not just this is a strong idea, but this is a strong idea that's actually going to join a conversation that's ongoing right now in the culture. Your book also needs to offer a fresh take on a universal problem or a common human experience. Just because one writer like C.S. Lewis wrote The Problem of Pain in the 1950s doesn't mean we never need another book on pain. Lewis spoke into one cultural moment with one personal experience, with one take from one person. And so he missed things. Every writer misses things. No writer's job is to address every single aspect of every single topic. So one thing you need to do is to say, hey, this is a universal problem, but I have a unique and fresh way in to talk about it, and I bring something to the conversation that I'm not currently seeing. Also, I can reach my intended readership when the book comes out. Either that's through having a platform or through having key relationships and key connections. Readers cannot read a book that they haven't heard of. And especially with nonfiction, things like discoverability and credibility factor in. So just having a strong book concept is not the sole deciding factor into whether you will land a publishing contract for your idea. The second myth that keeps people stuck is this belief that if my writing is just good enough, if I'm a good enough writer, then agents and acquisitions editors and publishers will jump at the opportunity to work with me. This is the myth that I fell prey to perhaps in my hubris early on, believing I'm such an amazing writer that all of these other things won't matter. They'll look at my writing sample and say, we have the next big name right here, and I would hire her to write anything. I would hire her to write the back of soup cans. That's how good she is. In reality, it doesn't really work that way, unfortunately. The reality of the situation is that your writing samples are only part of the matrix by which an acquisitions editor or an agent who would represent you, or eventually the pub board or the editorial board deciding to greenlight your book. The writing samples are only a fraction of that. And as a matter of fact, an acquisitions editor or an agent may never actually see your writing samples if the rest of your book proposal is not strong enough. I have been at conferences and I have talked to agents who have said, I can't afford to fall in love with the writing of an author whose book I cannot sell. It's too heartbreaking. So I actually don't look at the writing samples until I look at some other sections of the book proposal to see, is this the kind of book that I could represent? Can I imagine selling it to any of the houses that I work with? And so the writing samples do factor in. You do need to be able to write. I mean, obviously, but the quality of your writing is not the primary thing that will be considered first. So putting effort into the front end of your book proposal. And here's a tip that I didn't even plan sharing on you with you today, but making sure that your entire book proposal is written in your voice so that the writing comes through right away can be helpful. But your writing samples are only part of the pitching process. Some pre-published authors actually never make it far enough in the process for their samples to be considered. So the front end of the book proposal is way more important than you think. If you're approaching it just kind of boilerplate, like I'm just going to tell them a little bit what my book is about and then wow them with my writing samples, that is a myth that is going to keep you stuck. Which leads us to our third myth, which is one of the strongest ones out there, and that is that a book proposal tells the publisher what your book is about. Obviously, that's in there. That will be included, but that's actually not what the book proposal is doing. There is a subtext to every section of the book proposal, and the subtext is nowhere listed. If you Google book proposal templates, if an acquisitions agent or an agent or an acquisitions editor has slid into your DMs and said, hey, send us a book proposal. So you Google book proposals and you grab one of the templates and fill it out. Unless you know that there's subtext to everything that's being asked, you're just going to approach it in a very boilerplate way, and you're going to miss the biggest opportunity that you have when you send your pitch. So I am going to now tell you these reframing questions, which I have been teasing you with since the beginning of this presentation. So get out your paper and pencil if you're Gen X and up, and if you're younger, get out your notes app on your phone or however you take notes these days and write this down. The reality is book proposals are going to ask you some things overtly. What is your book about? What is the table of contents, the chapter breakdowns? What are some comps, some other books on the market that are selling like yours? It's going to ask all these questions. But when agents and acquisitions editors and pub boards, when they look at everything as a whole, they're really asking three questions that are nowhere listed anywhere in the book proposal. So the first question that they're asking is, why this book? Why does this book need to exist? Not just what is it about? What is going on that this book is addressing? What problem is this book addressing, and how will the book help meet that need? I read somewhere that 80% of all parents and caregivers and people who are raising children believe that it's important to talk to children about things like sexual health and sexual safety and things related to sex education, but only 8% of them follow through. There's a huge gap between intention and reality. So if I were to write a book to empower parents and caregivers and those raising children to have those conversations better, this book would need to exist to reverse those trends. So why does this book need to exist? Not just what is it about? So think about some statistics, something going on in the zeitgeist, something happening in this particular cultural moment that you can bring to the fore and say to publishers, here's what's going on. Here's how my book is a tool or a resource to reverse that trend. Without my book, that trend will continue. But with my book, we have a chance of stopping it. Super powerful. Why now? Why does this book, what is the cultural moment? Why now? So something super relevant. As I'm recording this video, I would love to give you what's going on in the news right now. As I'm recording this video, there's crazy things going on politically and in the entertainment industry with some big names. If I listed them right now, this would pretty immediately feel dated. But look around and think, what are the big conversations going on right now? So that these things are top of mind for people, so that when they see my book in a bookstore or online or on an end cap, they'll go, ooh, I was just thinking about that. And here she's written about it, he's written about it. So why this book? Why now? And why me? This is huge. Why are you the right person to write this book? What personal experiences do you have? What personal perspectives do you bring that you haven't really heard brought to the table before? It's not just the bigness of your ideas. It's not just the topic that you want to address. You can have a hot topic, but nothing fresh to offer. So these are three reframing questions. Anyone working on a book proposal can use these. So whether you're working on your first book proposal as a pre-published author, or whether you are a multi-published author who really wants to level up or change agents or change publishers, use these reframing questions before you start filling out any of the book proposal. And then as you're filling in the sections, it's very easy to lose the forest for the trees. So after you've done a draft of the book proposal, come back to these three reframing questions and recheck and reassess to make sure that every answer you give has these in the subtext. Now, any writer will tell you that information alone doesn't always make the biggest difference, because if we have information and don't do anything with it, then what good is it doing us, really? So, what I learned early on in my writing life was I needed not just information, but I needed application. And for some people, really what that boils down to is accountability. How many of us have had a dream and a vision for writing a book, but it just somehow remains shop talk and doesn't actually become something that we're working on? So accountability can make a huge difference. If you want to go from concept to contract to publication, you need to stop talking about writing and write. And often the missing piece is community and accountability around that. Someone to check in and say, hey, how's it going? Have you worked on what we talked about? Here's what you need to do next. Go do it and then bring it back and we'll look at it together. So concept contract offers accountability with deadlines and expert guidance and feedback on what you're working on. All those reframing questions that we talked about, I am an expert at helping writers figure out how to apply those reframing questions, especially on book proposals. So if the only thing stopping you from writing your book is you, it could be that concept to contract is the right program to take your book from wishful thinking to a reality. I built the concept to contract program to give writers exactly what I wish I had had in 2013. So, concept to contract is not for every writer, but it is designed specifically for writers of nonfiction books who already have a message and an audience and the desire and wish to write a book. Their idea is almost fully formed. They may need just a little bit of input to finish honing it, but this is not for people who are just sitting down thinking, maybe I should write a book one day. This is not for people who are just starting out in their chosen field or in their chosen specialty, who have not yet gained the experience and the expertise to speak into something. This is for people who already have a fully formed expertise, who have a readership, who would love to read this book, and who have the wish and the desire to write their book. So what you will get, if that's you, what you will get in Concept to Contract is a template that I have continually worked on over years. Everything I learn from day to day, week to week, to month, I update our template constantly. It is a living document. And so you will get our latest book proposal and query letter templates so that you can craft a book pitch using those 3 reframing questions that we talked about. And you can start sending out well-crafted query letters, which is kind of like a cover letter. You know, when you used to send out resumes, you'd have a cover letter. Well, when you send out a book proposal, you send out a query letter on the top. So we have our own templates for query letters and book proposals. We have seen writers use these to pitch their dream agents, their publishing houses, their preferred publishing houses, and earn advances up into the 6 figures. So we know these things work. They don't work the same way for everyone, obviously, because there is a personal factor involved in what are you writing about? How do you write it? What is your tone? What is your position in the marketplace? You know, there's so many subjective factors, but we have seen so much success with these templates that we know baseline they work, and they could work for you. I also give you personalized one-to-one coaching sessions with guidance and deadlines. So I will give you worksheets that will give you everything you need to start gathering resources and start working on sections of your book proposal. And I will never let you lose sight of those 3 reframing questions. That is the thing that I see most authors losing sight of. So my job is to keep you on the rails with your deadlines, but also to ensure that you don't approach your book proposal in a boilerplate fashion, just filling in answers like it's a test or something. I will ensure that the entire book proposal follows one message, and that message answers those 3 subtext questions. And you will also get accountability and community, not just through me, but we have seen that putting community and fellowship around your writing is a game changer. You know, writing can be a lonely occupation, and sometimes it's just you and your own inner critic, and that's bad. So adding other voices to the conversation is often very helpful. So we have Slack channels, and we will have motivational group calls where you can meet other writers at the same stage in their development of their ideas and really build off the energy and synergy that a group can bring. We also will help you plan ahead for pitch meetings, and we will give you a pitching plan as you go out the door with your book proposal and your sample chapters and your query letter. We will put together a plan for who you would like to pitch, how you should pitch them, and how you can prep for your first pitch meeting with an agent or an acquisitions editor. We will make sure you have everything you need to pitch your work with confidence. And I won't let you do it until I know you're ready. Now, my hope and my prayer for any writer who encounters this video, whether you just randomly stumbled across it on YouTube or whether someone sent it to you, my hope and prayer for you is that every writer who sees this can glean something from it. Those reframing questions are gold. So even if you're not a good fit for the Concept to Contract program, you can take those, take whatever's useful from this video, send it to your friends, share it with other people, use it in good health, and God bless and Godspeed. But I have a very special program called Concept to Contract, and it's not for everyone. So here's who I'm looking for with this Concept to Contract program. First of all, if you are a person of faith, if you are a Christian, a kingdom-minded person who is building resources and tools for the kingdom of God, you are working on a nonfiction book, and you are a Christian speaker or leader already with an established expertise, you have an engaged audience, and you have a relevant message that you believe can meet the world where it is today. And the only thing you're lacking from taking that from a concept to a book contract is lack of experience, lack of ability. You're just not sure how to do it, and you're not sure you have the time. But if you had someone working with you, you think you could knock it out of the park, that's Concept Contract. If you are motivated, if you are a self-starter who does not need someone to do it for you, but you need someone to do it with you and give you help and feedback as you go, if all you're lacking is coaching, guidance, and resources, this program is for you. In the Concept Contract program, we do not do anything for you, but we do it with you. You don't do things, you do things yourself, but you don't have to do it by yourself. So you do have to be a writer for this one. We don't ghost write, we don't do the work for you, but we provide you every tool and every resource so that you can bring the ability and the insight that only you have. I know how to ask the right questions to get some of the information out of you, but I can't do it for you because I'm not you. There are thoughts that you have and perspectives that you have and access to information and insight into your own topic and community that only you will have. So you'll do this yourself, but you won't do it by yourself. We will give you every tool, every resource, and we will give you a set number of sessions to walk you through. I have done this many times with many people very successfully, and I would want to bring that to you because we need your book. The world needs your book. This is also for someone who is ready to invest their time and talents and resources to build something strong for the kingdom of God through their writing. At Build a Better Us, we are a kingdom-minded people with very different, vastly different skill sets, but what we have in common is that we believe the kingdom of God is advancing. The gates of hell cannot prevail against it. And each of us brings something unique into building the kingdom. And so if what you have to bring into the kingdom of God is a book that is going to advance the kingdom of light, and that's somehow being held back through a lack of resources or a lack of you're kind of like Nehemiah in the book of Nehemiah. You're up doing what you need to do. God has already put you in a position, and you say, I can't come down, like Nehemiah said to Sanballat and Tobiah, I can't come down and mess around with you guys. I have a wall to build. Some of you are so deep in your own skill set and your own audience and your own job that you think, I don't have time to do what Ruth did, which is take 5 years of my life and go learn how publishing works. I just want to create a book proposal, send it off to an agent or a publisher, and get them to greenlight the book so I can go write the book and then get back to the work that God has given me. If that's you, you're who I built this program for. You don't have to go learn how publishing works. You need to have some live sessions with someone who knows how it works and say, no, don't do that. Actually, I know that sounds like a good idea, but that's not actually how it works. Do it this way instead. It's going to work quicker. It's going to be more efficient. And then you can go write your book. So if that's you, then the Concept to Contract program could be a good fit for you. If you recognized yourself in that list, if you're a Christian leader, if you already have an engaged audience eager for you to write a book, and if you have a desire to do this and advance the kingdom of light and push back against the kingdom of darkness, then here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to the link in my bio here on YouTube. I want you to click through. It's going to take you to my Instagram page. DM me. My DMs are open. I want you to DM me the word START, and I will reach back out and we will get you connected and see if this program is right for you and get that book written.